Welcome. If you're new here, my name is Gabby, and I am an equestrian that turned my love of horses into a career of equine bodywork. About 2 years ago, I launched my own business, which is called Victory Equine Services, and I help horses across the state of Florida. People ask me all the time. They say, Gabby, how did you become an equine bodyworker? I've never even heard of that before. This is a thing? It's such an odd career. How did you get into it? Well, today, I'm here to tell you that story, so buckle up. It's a bit of a long ride. The first thing I want to say is that I did not grow up in a very horsey background. Both of my parents have always liked animals, and I always liked animals even from a young age, but horses were never really in the picture, not with my parents and not with my extended family either. With that being said, I did grow up in Pennsylvania and then later moved to New Jersey. So Pennsylvania has a large population of Amish people. The Amish people have draft horses that they use to plow the fields, and then they have carriage horses that they use for transportation along the roads. And then later, when I moved to New Jersey, there was a lot of standard bred racing that's very popular in that state. So growing up, I did see quite a few horses, and I was always very interested in them. Another thing that you should know about me is that I was homeschooled from first grade all the way through 12th grade. And because of that, I was able to tune into my interest really, really deeply and still get, the normal education of math and English, but really dial into those things that I was interested in. Right from the beginning, in first grade, when I was about 6 or 7 years old, my mom had me do this study, and part of that study was based on horses. So we learned about the different horse breeds, their history, what they were used for, all their different colors, and I absolutely loved it. I just soaked in all the information like a sponge, and I couldn't get enough of it. My mom couldn't even find me enough horse books to read. Shortly after that, my dad was able to set up a meeting with this farmer that had 2 Clydesdales, and I'll never forget the first time I met these Clydesdale horses. Their names were Jake and Jack, and they were a father and son duo, and this farmer used them as workhorses. They plowed his fields, and from that moment on, I was absolutely hooked. There was no going back. At this time, we lived in New Jersey, and my parents were able to sign me up for riding lessons at a nearby hunter-jumper facility. It was a pretty large facility. They had a good variety of horses, and both an indoor and outdoor arena. I feel like I got a really good foundation at this barn. I rode there for about a year on a variety of horses, and I worked my way up from walk to trot to canter, and was slowly heading towards jumping, although I was still a little bit young for that. Unfortunately, I was only able to stay at that barn for a year, and then I had to take a break from riding as my family moved around a lot. Eventually, we settled in Florida in the Tampa Bay area, so that is the west central coast of Florida, and as soon as we were settled in, I was ready to jump right back into horses. The barn I started riding at in Florida taught me so much more. They operated their business mainly on rehab cases and training horses, so they would bring them in, rehab them, train them up a little bit, and then resell them. So I stayed there for a couple years, and I got to work with a huge variety of horses. I worked with Mustangs, I worked with warm bloods, quarter horses, and especially off-the-track thoroughbreds. We had a lot of off-the-track thoroughbreds come in. Next thing you know, I was 14, and I started volunteering at a barn that did therapeutic riding. So for anyone who's unfamiliar, therapeutic riding is when horses are used for therapy purposes. Usually it is with children that have special needs, although it may also be with adults, such as people in the military that have PTSD. In the therapeutic riding, I got a lot more experience teaching. I was able to teach about 60 to 80 kids every single week, and I was again able to work with a variety of horses. The majority of therapeutic riding facilities are nonprofits, and as such, they usually don't have the funding to purchase good, young, sound horses. The majority of horses that end up in therapeutic riding programs got there because despite their very gentle, very kind personalities, their body has broken down to a point where they're not really useful for other riding disciplines. So their owners donate them in order to give them a more gentle second career. Around this time, I was starting to question what I wanted to do for a career. I was looking at some non-horsey options, but ultimately decided that I needed to have a job where I worked with horses. This was my passion, and this is something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. For a while, I considered getting into veterinary medicine and quickly found out that I was too squeamish for that job. I did not do well with blood and parasites and infections. That was just not my thing. I think I could do better with it now that I'm older, but at the time I lost interest very quickly. I also considered becoming a professional trainer or a professional rider, but I quickly realized that in order to have that career, you need to either have a very large financial backing or you need to be very willing to take risks, neither of which I was very comfortable with. I am a much more steady Eddie type of person, and I'm not a big risk taker. So I very quickly ruled out being a veterinarian, as well as going the more traditional route of being a trainer or owning a boarding facility. I just figured that neither of those were good options for me. At the same time, I had been at this therapeutic riding facility for quite a few years now, and what I was seeing is that our horses were aging, and because of their injuries and their pre-existing health conditions, they weren't aging very well. They were uncomfortable, they were sore, and I wanted to find ways to help them be more comfortable and to just live happier, healthier lives. And that is when I came across equine bodywork. Before this, all my years of horses, I had never seen an equine bodyworker. I had never even heard of it before. But once I found it, it was absolutely fascinating to me. Once I decided that I wanted to kind of explore this equine bodywork field, I ended up shadowing a couple of other bodyworkers and just seeing the way that they worked. Luckily, the area that I live in is not too far from Ocala, which is considered the horse capital of the world. I was able to meet some other body workers there and just really get a feel for what a career in equine bodywork looked like. Each practitioner had gone to different schools, they had different methods, and the horses responded differently to their work. At some point in another video, I will dive into the school I chose and kind of why I went that route, but for the purpose of this video, I would just like to say that the school I chose was based on the fact that I wanted a career in equine bodywork. There were plenty of short courses that I found that were available, 2-week or 2-month courses that could give you a basic idea of equine bodywork, but as someone that wanted to get into this field as a lifelong career, I really wanted to find a program that would give me all of the tools necessary. The program that I ended up choosing is, to my knowledge, one of the most detailed and longest available in the United States. The program looked a little bit like this. You would do online self-study, self-paced work, and then go to a workshop, learn the in-person, hands-on skills that were necessary, take that knowledge back home, and spend a whole lot of time practicing on the horses in your area. That process then repeated over the next year and a half, which actually ended up being 2 years with COVID. Once I graduated from my Equine Bodywork certification course, I was able to launch Victory Equine Services on July 1st, 2021. I can say that the last 2 years have been absolutely amazing. I have worked with so many amazing people, amazing horses, and I love my job. I love getting up every day, traveling, seeing new places, and I would like to make this career field more mainstream for other equestrians to consider. If you've been thinking about a career in equine bodywork, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, as I will be posting more educational content about my experience and how I would recommend others go into the field of equine bodywork. And with that, I hope you have a great day.